First of all, thank you so much, man, for CyberNow Labs to let me come in and invade your space on a Sunday. I'm glad to see I'm not the only person who works crazy hours. They asked me once if I was ever going to retire, and I go, I retired 25 years ago. I mean, I literally, everything I do for a living is a hoot. In fact, that's going to be one of the big questions I had. One of the things that the guys over at CyberNow Labs asked me to talk about was the concept of, are you right for CyberNow Labs? And it's a valid point, and it's a critical one too. And so for years, for almost 30 years now, I've been helping people get into IT. And there are certain traits that I've discovered over the years that I think are really strong signs that you're going to be right for IT security, and CyberNow Labs. And the first one I'm going to throw out, because this always makes people laugh, but it's absolutely true. And that is, are you a putterer? Do you like to putter around? Now, when I say putter, I'm talking about a putterer is a person who likes to mess with stuff in detail for fun, okay? So let me give you an example. Let's get out of IT. There's putterers all over the place. I love cars, and I love working on cars. That I'll putter around on the inside. I have destroyed more carburetors than you can possibly imagine, and that's just fun, okay? But in any kind of deal work, are you a gamer? I'm a huge gamer. I game constantly, especially complicated online games like, I don't know, Kerbal Space Program, Space Engineers, any of the fun sandbox games. If you're any of those, if you play Arma 3 or anything like that, you definitely need to be talking to CyberNow Labs. But again, stay away from computers. Detail work and puttering around can come in all kinds of different areas. People who sewing, crochet, watch repair. Did you guys even know that that was a hobby? That there's an entire hobby of people who fix watches, and they have huge YouTube videos, and I watch every single one of them, because if I wasn't in IT, I'd probably be in watch repair, because it's puttering around and it's cool. Oh, by the way, guys, I use a term I need you guys to be comfortable with. CIC. Y'all hear that? That means because it's cool. Because sometimes you just do stuff CIC because it's cool. Are we okay with that? All right. Some other clues that might tell me that you'd be good for CyberNow Labs. Do you own either of the following? Number one, do you have a second phone? In particular, do you have a second phone that is a different technology than the phone you have? Like, for example, you have an iPhone, which is your main phone, but did you ever buy an Android CIC? You might be a CyberNow Labs person. Any type of IoT device. It surprises me how many budding IT security people I've run into simply because they went and bought, I'm trying to think of something to be simple, a Nest thermostat. Anybody got a Nest thermostat? Okay. Has anybody ever started poking around with that thing and understanding the level of controls and craziness you can have with it? CIC, because it's cool, man. So that's definitely some of the big signs. Puttering is so important. But it goes deeper than that. Another big one is what I'm going to call patience, perseverance, or poke around. All right. Does anybody own an automobile? Seriously, David, go like this if you own an automobile. I need you to be like we're at a rock concert. Not okay. So, David, what do you drive? Do you mind me asking? Make something up.
It's actually a Toyota, I have to say, yes.
What kind of Toyota?
Camry.
Okay, so that's a terrible example, so I'm going to have to use one of mine, David. Go to the back of the room. So I drive
Mustang, if that works.
So I have a Ford F-250 pickup truck, all right? I'm in Texas, come on. What does F-250 mean? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Nobody knows, right? Okay, well, let me ask you a question. David Moon, I'm going to pick on you because, well, I like you better than anybody else. Could you get into my Ford pickup truck and run the windshield wipers?
It's probably on a stalk over on the left or something.
Whoa. I'm sorry, sir. Do you have Ford F-250 trading? Are you certified to pick them up trucks? You know what I mean? No, but the problem is, guys, and this is so important, if you really want to know if this type of world is something you want to be in, are you the kind of person who's going to sit there jump into my Ford and poke around for a few minutes and figure out how to run the windshield wipers. Look, we all know what windshield wipers are. And David Moon, I have every confidence, sir, that you could jump into my truck, run the windshield wipers, and I'll bet you could even squirt water on the windshield too, without any training whatsoever. And guys, this is so important when you're going to be getting into IT. This ability to not only putter, but to poke around and you don't take no for an answer in IT security. You dive in, you take steps deeper and deeper. So many people coming into this industry think that it's all push button. And to some extent it is push button. I'm not going to argue that point. But in a lot of situations, the answer is not intuitive or in front of you. And what separates great IT security techs from regular techs is their ability to fall back on their training, recognize that they don't see something that's obvious, but they're going to persevere, and they're going to putter, and they're going to poke around until they find the solution. I find that to be a surprisingly rare trait for people. Now, there's a couple more I'm going to throw in here just because I should. Number one, and this is a tough one. I don't know about you guys. I talk good, but I'm kind of Asperger-y. I'm definitely on the spectrum, all right? And I say that with pride. It's hard for me. Sometimes I had to teach myself over decades to work in a team. So you guys have ever seen like computer nerds. What does a computer nerd do? What are some of the stereotypical things that as nerds that we do? And by the way, nerd is the biggest compliment I can give you, all right? Come on, help me out. What do nerds do? We don't maintain eye contact, right? We're very terse in our conversation. Move, right? All that kind of stuff. Well, that might be fine for standalone screwdriver techs, but when you get in the world of IT security, you're working with other human beings. You're part of a team. And you can't use those classic, well, do you guys know why IT nerds are terse and don't maintain eye contact and all those things? You know why? Because as nerds, we are the most, self-centered, egotistical people on earth. I know the answers to everything. And if you people would just get out of my way, I can fix all this stuff. Unfortunately, especially when you're like working in a SOC or something like that, the idea of working by yourself is not a good idea. So teamwork is such a big idea. And I got to tell you, that was for me personally, an area of great training that I had to make myself get into it. Because not only, when I talk about communication, I'm not just talking about talking to people. I'm talking about written communication. There's a lot of it that's in there as well. So those are the big things that I need you to say to yourself and go, do I match those criteria? And if you can, or even some of them, I have a strong feeling that you'd have amazing success with CyberNow Labs. So you go through this internal little process of yours and you make a decision. You go, yeah, you know what? I think IT security is the way I can go. Now, listen, guys, I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about all the money you can make. And I don't even care about that. I honestly don't. I don't do IT for money, but I like it when it comes in. Is anyone offended by my capitalism? The trick is then if you have that, how do you have the solve that propensity? And the answer is you've got a lot of choices out there. CyberNow Labs is not your only choice out there. Now, that might be a clue that I'm sitting here talking to you, might give you a clue that I'm pretty pro on this. But the reality is that the CyberNow Labs guys, they're going to get embarrassed when I say this, have invented something that I have never seen in 30 years of IT instruction. Nobody else is doing what they're doing. Yeah, they're going to talk about, they're going to have an entire security operations center and you're going to work at it. And guys, that's important. That is critical, super critical. I'm sick and tired of people. Guys, I make money from IT certifications. As a person who makes money from it, it offends me that we don't have enough practical hands-on experience for people coming into the industry. Certifications are great, they're important, but they're not sufficient in and of themselves. So to have real experience, real hands-on, you know, with I don't want to say state of the art, but the best representation of tool sets that you're actually going to be running into in the real world is something that only CyberNow Labs does. Nobody else is doing this, or if someone else is doing it, they're hiding it from me, which is pretty tough to do because I got my nose in this business big time. And so, I mean, you're going to pick up certifications. That's not the issue, but it's important. But then on top of that, to have the ability to walk in to your first day on the job and literally know your tool set right there and be ready to go. I got to tell you, Cyber Labs, when this was introduced to me just a few months ago, I was like, dang, I wish I had thought of this first. But it's an amazing way to go. And it's, I got to tell you, it's exciting for me to see you've got industry partners in here, which is very exciting. Am I allowed to sit in? I want to listen to what everybody else has to say. Is that okay?
Absolutely. You can stay throughout the entire session. You
never know with these panel things if I'm supposed to jump out or something like that.
No, you can absolutely stay, and you'll get to hear a little bit more about some of the things that we're doing as well too, and the other panelists we have as well. Last thing I ever want to do is move from Mr. Meyers. I know he can talk probably all day long. He's like me, but it's been absolutely spectacular to hear from you, and we definitely appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all of you being here as well too. So thank you very much for that, Mike.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. All right. So why don't we go to, I believe we're going to Amy next. Is that correct? Is Amy unmuted? Miss Howland, are you there?
I am here. Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I am great. I'm going to up my game and my energy level to try to be on par with Mike Meyers. It was an extremely dynamic conversation. I enjoyed it.
I'm sure you'll handle it just fine. Marla.
Sure. So thanks for having me. I was just thinking, I'm a little bit particular about things that I accept and where I participate. And when CyberNow Labs asked me to participate in this panel or to jump on a Sunday, I had no qualms whatsoever and accepted right away. Some of the things that I'm going to say are repetitive of what Mike just said, so I am the Chief Information Systems Security Officer right now at Maxar Technologies. It's a newer role for me. Prior to this role, I was at Perspecta in the Northern Virginia area before we got acquired by Peraton, and that's where I learned about CyberNow Labs. And so I think it's absolutely amazing what CNL does. And again, I haven't seen this before. And, I was looking at the Q&A when it came in and somebody mentioned a boot camp. I equate boot camps, you learn something oftentimes for a test, unfortunately. And there's folks who definitely study and learn a lot. And I think a lot of boot camps, there's some really good ones. And they're very helpful. I know I took one 20 plus years ago for the CISSP. But what CyberNow Labs does is it's getting that experience. It's real, it's hands-on, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Many security teams are either understaffed or they're just small, period. And taking the time to bring on a new person, especially a junior SOC analyst who has no experience whatsoever in the tools or really what's behind the tools and the attack scenarios and the network traffic, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And that's if you can get that person in the door. There's maybe some of the bigger companies that have larger staffs are willing to take somebody on that really has no experience. But when you get to those companies that are technically large businesses, but they have those smaller teams, it's really hard to want to interview, let alone hire, someone whose resume has no experience whatsoever. The teams are wonderful and they're excited about what they do and they want to train people, but it takes a lot of time and it takes time away from what they need to do on a daily basis. So bringing somebody in who came from CyberNow Labs, and we did this at my last company, where they had experience not only with the tools that we were using in our SOC, but they knew not just how to use them, which is really important, but really what was happening behind the scenes. So how to be a tier 1 SOC analyst, what the traffic was, what the attack scenarios were. And so coming in, not only coming in new, but coming in during COVID, this was, I think it was early on during COVID, like maybe spring, summer, fall of 2020, where everything was happening. This person came in and just hit the ground running, and he's part of the team. He's still there, and was a very well respected person on the team, and just came in and knew what to do and knew how to work the tools that we already had in place. And so I think, seeing if I have any other, this learning the tools, you know, if you know one tool, sometimes it helps you with another similar tool, but knowing the tools and the technologies really goes a long way in starting out at a company. And I think what CyberNow Labs is doing is fantastic. And I know I've spoken with them about some tools that I'm using at my current company, saying, hey, do you guys do this? And something that I would definitely recommend and use going forward, people that come out of CyberNow Labs.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy, for being here and providing us with a little bit of your experience. I believe, you know, you've had firsthand experience being able to experience what it is we do and how we can help your company as well too. Bear with me for one moment. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Women in cyber, you know, I have little minions over here on the side, by the way, that are, you know, flagging me down and say, hey, women in cyber is so huge. It's an amazing growth opportunity. And, you know, I'll be honest, some of the women that I have worked with that are doing cybersecurity, their analysis skills and capabilities they're different than, you know, a guy would look at it sometimes. And I know that that's kind of an odd thing to say, but you know, it really is. And it's like the different perspective is amazing. So women in cyber is huge. And Amy, we were so excited to have you here with us today. So thank you again very much for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. So let's make a change. We're going to go over to, I believe we're going to David next. Is that correct? Mr. Moon, are you there with us? Yes, you are.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, and thanks for everyone for joining in today. This is really a potentially game-changing opportunity for many who are on the call today, and I'm really excited about the results that each of you can gain in working with CyberNow Labs. It's really a opportunity to create, working with CyberNow Labs, an inflection point in your career, in your professional trajectory. So a little bit about me, perhaps just for a moment. I had been a corporate CIO most of my adult life, and through the 90s and into the early 2000s, had been CIO for a number of organizations, including Fortune 500, senior VP roles, et cetera. And really gradually over time gravitated to cyber. When I left the corporate world and left Silicon Valley, I really wanted to target a cybersecurity career and was part of Capgemini's global cybersecurity practice as well as PwC's, and then have done more work in recent years in cybersecurity risk management, which is really kind of at the center of what we're all about here. What you have, and over the course of the summer, I was introduced to Hassan and Omer and what they were doing at CyberNow Labs, and it really struck me as a massive innovation. This is not just a refresh or a opening up of the training process, but it's also a completely fresh look at things. So what we really have here is, as others have said, the ability to include actual experience with the actual training, some of the best training that's available. And that real world experience is with many of the kinds of solutions and processes that you will see in a common CSOC. And that really is very valuable. I've had the opportunity to kind of try out the model and a description of it with people from IBM, Deloitte, Palo Alto Systems, et cetera, and have really gotten a great reception as they've come to understand this. So what's really available to you here, I want to delineate. And I won't take a lot of our time. I know there's a lot on the agenda today, but I want to really make sure that everyone's had the opportunity to make the distinction of what happened when I earned my certifications and my CISSP. It really was a boot camp sort of format. Now that's a transaction. So think in terms of transactions versus what you have here, and the opportunity within CyberNow Labs is really a relationship. You become part of a community, a network of alumni in very key positions, as Amy pointed out, in many organizations who are really making a difference. You become part of a community back at CyberNow Labs in terms of ongoing training, interaction, placement opportunities throughout your career. So it really is a relationship, as opposed to many of the other alternatives out there are sort of a one-shot transaction. I've got my certification, now I'm off and running. I go and I do whatever I do. This is fundamentally different. And I think when you weigh the options and alternatives, you'll see that, wow, this is really something, and not just for today, but for the future of my career. In a career, there are lots of twists and turns, there are economic fluctuations, lots of organizational change, et cetera, over the long run. And to have a partner like CyberNow Labs working with you in that journey is immensely valuable. So I urge you to consider that as well. And it's really exciting to see all of the fresh faces here today, and just know the possibilities that are waiting ahead for you. So again, David Moon, thank you very much for your time, and all the best wishes possible as you continue to embark on this really exciting career journey ahead of you.
Thank you very much, David. Definitely appreciate your time and your experience. Honestly, some of the things you hit on are some of the reasons why I actually chose CyberNow Labs when I started this adventure as well too. I have friends and family who are in cybersecurity, and one of the biggest things that they said about boot camp kind of mentality is they are temporary. It's short term, quick. Here we're going to teach you the high points, go take your test, and then have fun. To a certain degree, in certain situations, that can be beneficial. But the mentality of what CyberNow Labs does, and the family environment. When you are a CyberNow Labs alumni, you are family. I have seen step after step after step, time after time where past students have been able to rely on CyberNow Labs for different things. So 100% agree with everything you stated. So thank you again very much as well. So fantastic meeting you also. I look forward to talking to you again in the future as well. All right, so let's take a step over now to Chief Technology Officer for Black Kite, Mr. Candan Bolukbas. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too horribly. You actually look like you're in the nicest office out of all of us right now.
Yeah, so no, thank you very much. So I have a pleasure to be here. So as you mentioned, I'm CTO and co-founder of Black Kite. I'll give you a short history of Black Kite. Black Kite is a very successful startup company incorporated in 2016. So we raised seed round, about 3.5 million, and then 7.5 million A round, and then recently 22 million B round. So it's a very successful startup company that you probably see on news and on some other articles. So, and we have a lot of customers. I'm not going to give you the numbers, but I can say that a lot of Fortune 50 customers, Fortune 50 companies are on our customer list. So it's a very strong business, and I'm proud to be running this business. So those who know me, probably there are some folks knows me here. I'm very tough guy. I'm very, when it comes to the technical things, I have my own labs on my computer. I like to do the things hands-on. And Omar knows me very well. So if there's something that I need to repeat more than 10 times, I always look for to automate that. So there are some constraints that I really like to follow. And obviously, my expectations are very high when I'm interviewing somebody. So my interviews are very interesting compared to the other ones. My interviews, as some of folks maybe been there before, it's open internet, open phone, open everything. So you are basically allowed to use any resource on my interview to answer the question. So that is kind of the way, because we're not expecting you to memorize everything, right? So it's not going to happen. Technology is changing so fast. The thing that we're looking for is if you have enough experience, if you get your hands dirty, then you will find the answer. You will interpret the answer when you see that in Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange or some articles, right? So as long as you have the mindset, you can get the things running, right? We're not living in a real-time response, or we're not running like a NASA mission, right? So it's you know, you don't have any, you know, margin in when you're running or working for NASA. But in our case, in most of the organizations, when you have an incident, you have time to respond that, at least a couple of minutes, if not hours, to ingest that, understand that, and respond that. So my expectation from a cybersecurity analyst or SOC analyst is to understand the concept and then try to find out the answers for that. So obviously this requires an experience, but this is becoming a chicken and egg problem, right? Because I'm expecting experience, but you know, the industry doesn't have that many people. So how this is going to solve? And obviously experience-based training is the #1 requirement that I usually look for. So CNL, I'm proud to say that is one of those kind of, you know, training centers that forces their students to get their hands dirty. And it's the best thing that happened to you. I know that you're going to curse yourself. You're going to be really get excited on that when you're trying to do these things by yourself and try to solve the, you know, CNL's labs and questions and all those things. But guess what? If you don't do that, if you don't get that stress during your training session, you're going to have that stress in your professional life. And that's the worst thing that happened to you, because in professional life, dealing with those kind of problems is a nightmare. So that happens to, you know, some of these guys are on the other side of the table. We went through this Log4j, right? So Log4j is the biggest problem that we faced in 2021. And we went through that and we found out that we respond that, right? But CNL folks, I get a chance to kind of see that on there. So there was a lab that you get a chance to kind of respond how to see this problem, how to analyze that. That's a massive, massive important things that you are getting real life experience in a training center. That's one thing that I can say that is a very valuable, because it's the closest thing to a real life experience. Second, so there are a bunch of experience-based training sessions, but it always boils down to who is running this program, right? Because you may have you may have some trainings, but if the connection between the hardcore guys and the students is too long, then you may not get as good benefit as possible, right? Because there's too much distance between the top guy and the person who is training to use it. That's usually it's a bad sign as well, because there's a lot of you know, dilution between the top guy to students, and that's, you know, the quality usually reduces. So CNL is, at this point, is I can say that the two founders, I know them very well, so they're my neighbors. We actually, Ömer and I were in the same airplane when we are coming to US back in 2016. So I can say that their hands-on is at the top level that you can find. So they know what they're doing. They always communicate with the industry leaders. They always ask and force people. So they are not claiming that they are the best of the planet, but they are aware of that there are always the better. So they are looking for that and communicating with all stakeholders. So they consume a lot of resources from a lot of different places to make the course as you know, good as possible. And that's the result that I'm seeing. And I'm trying to remember what was the last time that I see a training center has Splunk, QRadar, CrowdStrike, or FireEye, and you know, ELK, and all different security tools that even my organization, and I'm trying to find out, I have only one of them. I don't have that many, but this training center has multiple of them. It's very actually nice to have the luxury to see that. And I mean, I've been the trainer between 2014 to 2016. I did a lot of training. So I've been in Istanbul. I've been training a lot. But my trainings usually like a bullet, right? So in 5 days, you know, 5 days I was training and, you know, certified ethical hackers or licensed penetration tester or forensic investigation. But you can imagine that this information is very ephemeral. So you can learn in the 5 days, you can keep the pace, but after 5 days, and then the knowledge is decreasing significantly. So this type of course, especially when you have hands-on experience with the, high quality people are leading this training, and that is a long-term training instead of a very spike, like in a point in time and then just, fading out. It's actually very nice implementation. So because this will let you to learn instead of memorize. So the horizontal trainings usually is a long-term gain rather than the spikes are usually you get your excitement, you get really excited about something, but usually you tend to lose your motivation over the time. So that is also another important thing that I like to say. Last but not least, I'll say that the most important thing that you may learn in Cyber Now Labs. Obviously, they are not a magic bullet, so everything is still on you. So you have to force yourself to learn stuff. But the thing that my college at least taught to me was I learned how to learn. So that's a very important thing. So CNL is actually forcing you to learn how to learn. So because there are so many things, there are so many opportunities. If you can kind of crack that code and find out how to learn, it's actually the career building. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. And I mean, my famous quote is, the reason that I'm not an astronaut because I didn't want to be an astronaut. That's the kind of the reason. If I be motivated to be an astronaut, it's not difficult. Even if it's a rocket science, it doesn't matter. So as long as you motivate and you know how to learn, you can learn. It's not a problem. The CNL is a type of implementation of this cybersecurity training. So it's giving you an opportunity to learn the things. And I get a chance to also hire one of you folks. And also I get 1 or 2 interns every year. And I can say that among the other people that I've hired, the top quality that I get from is Cyber Now Labs.
Awesome. Candan, thank you so much for your time and for your experience and being here with us today. Great to hear your opinions and your guidance towards these individuals who are interested in this process as well too. And, just like all the other speakers so far, you've hit on so many important points. And, I think one of the things I love about Cyber Now Labs is we try to hit all those points. It's always a constant focus of ours to learn, to grow. And I think that we have an amazing opportunity here, and we continue to utilize that every day to accelerate the learning process from each and every one of our people. Each and every day, you're getting better and better and better and better. And when I'm working with individuals in our SOC, looking at the investigations they're doing and the tickets that they're writing, you can see that by the time that they're done and they're ready to go into the workforce, they are absolutely cybersecurity analysts, and they can do effective investigations and use those tools very effectively from day one. And I can tell you the previous SOC that I was in, there's multiple Cyber Now Labs alumni that are there now too. And that's the reason why they are, because they had that same experience. So thank you for bringing that up. I definitely appreciate that. I know all of our attendees appreciate that as well. So, all right. So, certainly last but not least is Mr. Jack Johnson. And Jack Johnson is a senior systems engineer with ProofPoint. So let's take a few minutes from Mr. Johnson and hear what he has to say about the industry and about Cyber Now Labs.
Hello, everybody. So Jack Johnson, senior system engineer at ProofPoint. I've been here for almost 5 years. Prior to joining ProofPoint 2017, I actually managed a SOC. That's how I met Omer. He was one of the analysts, and I'm very proud of the progress he's made with himself and his career, and as well as taking some of the concepts that we applied in our SOC and now really structured it into a training program that can benefit people like yourself that's looking to get into the cybersecurity arena. One challenge that I had with cybersecurity, you can see I have gray hair, so I'm kind of old school. I've always kind of frowned upon these shotgun approaches to training where you get a certification and now they're qualified, because what I really feel is that cybersecurity, you build upon skills. Think of Lego blocks. You learn this, and then you learn something else, and then you learn something else, and that's how your career progresses, not by achieving a certification and now you're ready to go. Because think of it like riding a bike. You need the muscle memory, the practice, you know? And this is what the apprenticeship program and the training at CyberNow Labs provides. It gives you hands-on experience and you get the repetition so that when you conclude the cohort and graduate and now you're trying to go in for an interview, I've interviewed thousands of SOC analysts, literally over 13 years that I managed the SOC. You'll have the confidence because that's what having the experience and the knowledge and the hands-on experience gives you that confidence. So when you go into an interview process and they're asking questions, you're not nervous because you're not really, as we say in the US, faking it till you make it. You actually have legit experience. And that's one of the biggest things. You know, I presented a couple sessions over the last 2-3 years at CyberNow Labs, and the students were very receptive because I bring real world experience. You know, I was a Navy cryptologist. I worked at NSA. I was a Linux sysadmin, you know, so I've been around doing various things. And, you know, I worked in the incident response area, and now I'm in sales where we're helping organizations invest in the best products that exist today. You know, I always say next generation products and tools. And this is what you're going to learn at CyberNow Labs. You're going to learn the latest and greatest. But as Candan said, you know, we don't expect you to know everything, and things constantly change. You know, the only constant in life should be change. That way you're constantly evolving and learning and growing. But I think the program here is super beneficial. And as some of the other panelists said, that I haven't seen any programs like this where they're actually taking the time and dedication to allow students to be exposed to the information, but then absorb the information over time, because that's what it takes. It really takes time. And you can legitimately say, I have 6 months experience, a year's experience after you complete this program. And that's super important in cybersecurity, that, you know, we're always honest, because we're the good guys, right? So we shouldn't be fudging things on our application or saying things that are not correct.